Hello, hello. I am the Showpal guy, and I want to ask a question over here. Is Takopi's Original Sin anime of the year? I just finished Takopi's Original Sin, and it's one of those animes that's been floating around online that people have heard of and have talked about, but really isn't really spotlighted all that much within like the anime fandom community or sphere. And why is that? And that's because Takopi's Original Sin is going to be one of those like all-time great animes that we talk about that's gonna go be, like live on. It's gonna be one of those things like 5-7 years from now. Actually, if you're really deep within like in your past surface level of what your perspective is on anime, you can talk about Takopi's Original Sin. However, though, the reason why it's not anime of the year is because of this presentation that I made up for it, though. And let's talk about the series here. So first off, it is a 6-episode series, very short, about only 22 minutes per episode over here. So here are the themes of Takopi's Original Sin. It has bullying, depression, it goes over parental abuse, guilt. It goes over several more dark themes, but these are like the four I got from the top of my head over here, and what they are in the general sense over here. Like parental abuse here, it goes for more than just that. There is different types of abuse happening throughout the series over here. The main character, Takopi, who's this like octopus alien character. So Takopi tries to stay positive around those who lack hope, because Takopi is essentially a character who you can say, oh, it's somebody who just doesn't understand human emotions, or is somebody who like came from a city, a country, a state, and or like in this case here a planet, where you go from like one area that's like super like happy, positive, and you move a positive character who came from a positive space, and then you put that character in this terrible toxic environment. And that's what Takopi's Original Sin pretty much is, actually, where you got this very naive character who just doesn't get it, who like is recognizing how terrible life is beyond like first world problems, and then Takopi is trying to understand and figure everything out over here. This to me is like similar to like what happens if you bring like a super rich kid and you bring him to a ghetto area or to a low income area. That's how it kind of is. How I see it, though. Or if you bring somebody who's from like a very positive family household, and then like something tragic happens, and now that kid is now moved over towards a very toxic family. That's the scenario over here. Actually, think of the most like honest, nicest, most naive person you know in your personal life, and then you place them in a very difficult predicament where everybody's terrible, where everybody is a horrible person, and that's what you get. That's what you get here. Now in the show, though, it's in the form of an alien, because an alien who's like, he feels alienated, right? Like you come from one area to another, and you just don't get what's going on here. And then I compare this, though, and obviously I have to go mention this. I had to talk about Solo Leveling, because it is the reigning anime of the year, and these two cannot be any more polar opposites over here. We go from talking about bullying, depression, parental abuse, and guilt, and then we get to this self-insert power fantasy, talking about strengthened power. It's empowered. You're being an empowered underdog, even though you're not really an underdog in the series here. It's all about self-improvement, though. While we got this alien over here who's trying to figure out human emotions, or trying to go recognize like the difficulties and struggles that like people go through, we have this guy here in Jinwoo, who is like the coolest person in the world. You kind of insert yourself into this character. He gets bitches. He's got abs. He's jacked as heck. He's super cool. He aura farms all the time. So last year, this is the Crunchyroll anime of the year here. People love this. If you're saying what is the most trending anime out there in the world that came out last year, it has to be Soul Leveling. People love this series over here, and it's the exact opposite of this. So once again, we go from this. We go from cool self-insert power fantasy to talking about parental abuse. Complete night and day, actually. And this is why I theorize in my own mind here as to why I don't think Takopi's Original Sin can win Anime of the Year. It's not because of a lack of quality. It's just because it's not a show that fills out the boxes of narratives of what an anime should be, according to a lot of people who are into anime. So here are my takeaways with Takopi's Original Sin here. It's a very unpleasant show. You will never be happy enjoying the show. You'll never be happy. Like every single episode, every couple minutes, like you're just gonna be sad the whole time. Like, if you ain't crying, you're, like, self-reflecting on yourself and be like, oh, my gosh, this is terrible. This is sad. Oh, my, please, can we stop doing this? Like, it's a super sad show. Like, this is easily, without a doubt, one of the saddest shows I've ever seen in my whole life here. Not a single episode is happy. There's only maybe a handful of minutes of, like, positive fun stuff happening, but for the most part, like 97% of the time, it's just these kids out here dealing with the worst human beings ever, with like Takopi like getting like physically abused. All these kids here are going through traumas, severe, terrible traumas here, and you can logistically think about this. Where like you can imagine all these three kids at some point in their lives, like not even making it to like 17 or 18. And like that really is it. Like if these three characters were real, it wouldn't be surprising if these three at some point before the age of 18 like unalive themselves, because like that was like one of the key themes of a story here that I just can't really say on YouTube here. But it's full of traumatic moments, and it's traumatic moments. If you are somebody who's gone through trauma in real life, it's just gonna hit back to you in the face again here. Because here's Solo Leveling here. So several Solo Leveling fans here, they probably are millennial or Gen Z people. They call themselves, they're the type of people who call themselves nerds, who enjoy superhero movies, who love playing video games, and so they love anime, and they put all that within their dating profile. Like that is how I envision Solo Leveling fans. A lot of people see Solo Leveling fans as childish men who like struggle growing up, or they're just kids, is how it is at though. But like, let's talk about this here. So the anime of the year has the reputation of appealing to people who are not mentally mature or are incapable of really understanding complex themes, because the competition for Solo Leveling was Danadan and Frieren. Like both shows are incredibly popular in itself though, but those two shows just didn't tap into the Solo Leveling fan base here, who are like the casual fan base. If you present a show like this over here to like 100 people, all 100 of them will say, I don't want to watch it again. And they're not saying that because it's not a good show. They're saying that because it is super uncomfortable and nothing about the show makes you want to watch it again. Truth be told, you can watch Solo Leveling over and over and over again, right? You can play it in the background playing a freaking video game. You can go and find it like the oral farming scenes and just be hyped about it, okay? You can watch Solo Leveling with your friends and family, and nothing of importance is going to happen. Actually, you're not really having an engaging conversation about the quality of the show. You're just going to be like, yeah, this show is awesome. It's so cool. It's badass. But you're not going to get that for Takopi's Original Sin. You can't watch this really in a group here because all you guys be quiet. It's not a type of anime where you can bring a friend along to your house, your apartment, and then you're eating pizza while watching the show here. I watch a show at like 11:30 p.m. all the time for some strange reason after work. And so while I'm watching the show over here and it's super late at night, I'm feeling sleepy and it's very quiet. So I'm just only watching the show over here and it's incredibly sad and depressing. Why would you want to watch a show that is incredibly sad and depressing if you could choose to watch something that's a lot more fun? And so here are my personal reflection here. So as somebody who did grow up in an Asian household, very strict Asian household, I will tell you that actually, who does have some level of deep-seated depression, where I would wake up at 3:30 a.m. in the morning actually, and just like have panic attacks for some strange reason though, or I would try to hurt myself, or I would try to stab myself during elementary school actually. And by the way, these characters over here I think are like elementary school or middle school aged kids actually, like they're basically adolescents here. But when I was an adolescent though, what I would do was that I would go to the tetherball courts and I would like try to wrap myself, and I would like try to go like wrap the rope around my own neck at times though. And by the way, if you know Takopi's Original Sin, you know where I'm kind of getting over here, right? Like, you know what I'm talking about. I can't say it on YouTube for reasons, but those tendencies do pop in. And considering the fact that I do in fact like work with like young like adolescents and teenagers actually, like depression and those thoughts pop in now more so than ever, just because like depression and anxiety and stress is at an all-time high, especially for young people, including people in their 20s and 30s actually. Like a lot of millennials, Gen Zers, and Gen Airs are going through like huge like mental health like whiplash right now of like not feeling good about themselves, and like a lot of self-hurting happening here. Like one of the themes about this though is empathy for others though, because we all grew up in different households, right? Whether you be in an Asian household, a Hispanic household, a white household, an African American household, you have to learn that every like cultural, every ethnic group out there has a unique setting as to how they grew up though. And once you learn about how other people grew up though, it makes you want to empathize with other people, because generally a lot of people have gone through a lot of struggles. And so here's one reason why I don't think Takopi's Original Sin is gonna win Anime of the Year. The marketing for it though. Even though Takopi's Original Sin is like one of the standout animes of the year though, it is hidden in Crunchyroll. Like, it's never promoted ever. Like, if you go to Crunchyroll right now, despite this series kind of trending online just a wee bit though, and even though is a good series and it does lead to a lot of like discussions on mental health that we should talk about, it just never promoted. It's never promoted unless through like word of mouth, or you're like really deep into the anime community. But if you're not really deep into that stuff here, you're still gonna see stuff like Solo Leveling. You're still gonna see stuff like a lot of battle shonen, or like reincarnation or isekai based animes being presented actually. Even something like Kaiju number 8 got a whole lot of marketing behind it. And it does, and I think Kaiju number 8 is like, well, like it's a top 10 anime of like the past year, but I wouldn't call it like really popular. So Takopi Zero Sin though, it just doesn't have the marketing, it doesn't have the support that goes along with though. It even doesn't even have these viral marketing that usually a lot of these like lower end animes typically get actually. It just doesn't have that support though. So which would you rather watch? Would you rather watch something that's really hype, that's very comforting, that'll make you feel good about yourself though, that's really good for escapism? Or would you rather watch something that's super sad, depressing, uncomfortable, and will probably make you like self-reflect on yourself here? And we're talking about self-reflection over here. One of the biggest animes of the year, which main theme is all about self-reflection, Frieren, did not beat out Solo Leveling. And Frieren is a lot more easier to digest than Takopi's Original Sin then. So no matter how good Takopi's Original Sin is as a story, or how it tries to go deal with very serious topics and very dark topics that I think a lot of people, even within the anime community, should talk about more as it relates towards mental health and anxiety and depression though, we're never going to have the discussion though, because it's a huge turnoff. It really is. I call Takopi's Original Sin here as it's an anti-anime. It's an anti-anime anime. It's not applicable to meme culture. It just isn't. There's not a single scene within this, except for maybe like if you're a dark human being actually, elements of episode 1, but for the most part here, there's nothing really that meme worthy about this. You're not gonna see people like make lighthearted jokes about Takopi's Original Sin. Like, if you're gonna talk about this show over here or the series here, you have to engage in an honest to goodness like serious discussion about things that people don't want to talk about. Also, it's only 22 minutes long, but it's a very slow pace. It's 22 minutes of like terrible things happening. And so if you're somebody who can stomach terrible things happening for 20 straight minutes to adolescent children, then yeah, this show is for you pretty much actually. But it's very slow pace. Also in terms of animation, there's nothing about Takopi's Original Sin that you can ever show off to someone. Like, there really isn't. There's no like 2-minute clip or 1-minute clip where you can show somebody like a scene from the series then, and then they'll like it, because this entire show's shtick is all about being sad, being depressed, and talking about or going through themes and topics that will turn off people. It doesn't follow any tropes. It doesn't apply itself anywhere near like meme culture. It has no hype moments. It's a show that pushes people away from watching it unless you can stomach what is happening in the series here. So it's the anti-anime anime. Now that doesn't mean it's not bad or not good actually. I say it's an incredibly good show, because one of the very few shows out there actually that is willing to talk about a topic, and especially considering that me and myself, I've gone through things like this actually. And also as an Asian American, it is very like all three of these characters over here, all three of them, they all have, I'm not gonna spoil what's happening here, but all three are in a situation as it pertains to their family that I can't really get into actually. But if you know people who've gone through this in real life, you know how effed up it is. I'm trying to avoid spoilers over here, but if you know the backstory of these three, there are people in real life just like these three over here, and you know that their outcomes or how their mental state isn't the best in the world over here. So it's a slow pace anime that doesn't apply itself to meme culture and doesn't have any tropes. It breaks away from what people think anime should be, and this leads towards a quote here that one of my personal friends did say. And it's a perspective that I don't agree with though, but there are people who believe this. This guy says, "I watch anime to feel good about myself, not to be reminded of how much of a piece of shit I am. There are people who think like this. There are people who have a certain perspective or philosophy as towards what anime should be. People believe that when you watch anime, you should always feel good about yourself. When you watch anime, it should always have the tropes of like the super cool Edgelord guy who gets bitches. There should always be like the dumb thing where like a guy sees like a naked girl and the naked girl like slaps the guy. Like stuff like High School DxD or harem animes or like chat oral farming moments here or power levels. That's what a lot of people want anime to be. And so when you have an anime over here that tries to not do any of that, that tries to break away from like stereotypes or cliches about anime. Like there are people out there who are totally fine, who enjoy like making memes and jokes about like calling the police because someone's into lollies. Like that's what people want to see or want to have in their anime, but not this, and not really actually. And so let's talk about here. So why Takopi's Original Sin can't win Anime of the Year? Number one, lack of marketing, a lack of even viral marketing. People online don't want to talk about this series all that much though, because it's very unpleasant. And even if you do actually, it's not going to gain the same amount of traction as towards watching that has a lot of aura farming or a lot of hype moments in it then. Also, lack of memes. It's also not casual friendly at all. This is not a show that you can show to somebody who doesn't watch any anime. And also, this isn't really a show that you can ever watch with your friends, really. Like, if you do watch Takopi's Original Sin, you have to watch it, though, in the setting of just you. It's just you watching the show, digesting every terrible thing that happens, and just taking it all in, actually. This isn't a fun show to watch at all, which makes it not casual friendly, and it's not even a show for you to watch in a group setting. Also, it is a turnoff to many people. It is a turnoff. Some people want to escape. Some people want to go and clock off work, go home, and then like eat their food while at the same time watching some sloppy anime that's full of tropes and cliches that you've seen a bunch of times because it is comforting. A show like Takopi's Original Sin is not comforting at all. It goes against modern anime culture, which is why I like it, which is why I think a lot of people do praise Takopi's Original Sin. I think there's going to be a small vocal minority out there that's going to talk about Takopi's Original Sin being a really good sleeper anime show of the year, but it will never be presented at a larger stage. It's not going to be talked all that much though compared to something like this. Just because of how uncomfortable it is, though. I would be happy if it is a contender for Anime of the Year, but I just don't see it happening, though. It's very anti-casual friendly. It's very unpleasant, and I wished that more animes did try to go and be a little bit more serious. When I go to Crunchyroll, or High Dive or Netflix, I see so many like copycat animes that are like very like lazily done with like tropes and cliches and character archetypes that we've seen before. I'm sick and tired of like the self-insert power fantasy animes where it's a nerdy guy who like likes playing video games and likes anime and like nothing is like really happening to the person and just going off things like easy mode here. Like I just don't want to see that. I'm tired of that. I'm tired of like animes repeating a formula, and that's why to me I say Takopi's Original Sin is one of the best anime of the year. However, if you're somebody who doesn't like anime at just a surface level, then I don't think Takopi's Original Sin is for you. Is how I see it. Then, if you enjoy your shonen battle anime, if you enjoy, like stories that have very basic themes or their character like writing is very surface level. If you enjoy that stuff, good on you. That's all on you. I just think that more people should be open to watching more serious animes, and hopefully, more people could get into a series like Takopi's Original Sin. I like the series. I recommend it though, but be ready to stomach a lot of terrible things happening in this series.